folks, what's up? It's your boy DJL7, and today I have a very special guest right here. Now, I'm actually highly blackballed in the Korean American community, so this guy is actually willing to talk to me, and he's not just anybody. He's a very significant figure in the Korean American community. So I'm gonna let him introduce himself real quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Michael Kim, CEO at Radio Korea in Los Angeles, or used to be in Los Angeles, now in Orange County, but our transmitter site is still in Los Angeles, KMPC, AM 1540. I'm also the creator of a podcast called K-Town Social Club, which is how DJ Elf became aware of me in the first place. And yeah, good to be here with you all.
Were you born in the United States, or you when you were young?
Yeah, I was born in the United States. I was actually born in Los Angeles at Cedars-Sinai Hospital, which is only a few miles away from Koreatown. And my first home was an apartment building in Koreatown on the corner of Wilton and Elmwood.
I know you actually visited North Korea once, and the thing is, it's like, my mom's from North Korea, my dad's from South Korea, and I really want to know what's going on in North Korea, but the thing is that so many of the producers who make content about North Korea, there's very strange things going on, which make me very skeptical of the things that they talk about. So is there anybody who you think gives a more accurate view of what's going on in North Korea? I think there was a guy named David on your channel who actually made Citizens of Pyongyang or something like that. What are your thoughts on content about North Korea, and is it accurate?
Yeah, most content about North Korea is very inaccurate, sensationalized, made for clicks and views. David Yoon, who is on K-Town Social Club, he made a documentary called, Loyal Citizens of Pyongyang, about North Korean defectors who now reside in South Korea, who are still loyal to the North, and he did that to, I guess, show another way of thinking about North Korea.
That's very interesting because the thing is that a lot of North Korean stuff is illegal in South Korea. So did they they could get in trouble for saying those kinds of things, right?
Yes, as I recall, in that documentary, 2 or 3 defectors were interviewed, and I know that one of them was imprisoned for praising Kim Il-sung, and another one, a lady, her name is Kim Yeon-hee. She has not been given a passport because they know that she's going to just go to China and then go back to North Korea. They won't let her leave. She has openly stated that she wants to go back home. Yeah.
I have to admit that it seems so strange to me that the stories that the defectors that we hear about, like Yeonmi Park, or there's another name like Uni or something like that, with Charles in North Korea, become these most extreme tales. But then you see several North Koreans in interviews and stuff saying, "I want to go back to North Korea." It seems like it doesn't seem to add up, right? If people want to go back there, it doesn't seem like it would be it seems like almost sure death from the things that I see. But that doesn't. If people want to go back there, it doesn't really seem to really add up for me. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, you hear that if people leave, their family gets killed, or if they get caught, they get killed, or whatever. But you hear about some defectors, they've escaped multiple times. Now, how can you escape multiple times if you get killed?
That's a great point right there. There's a lot of weird stuff going on, and I have to try to fish out this information just by watching channels, thank God, like yours, that actually speak. I really want to talk with people from the Korean diaspora. And when you look at these people like Yeonmi Park, and I could show it on the screen, but you've probably seen it yourself. I encourage my audience to do so. Charles from North Korea, they don't really interact. They have this little pool of North Koreans that they interact with, and they're not allowed to actually contact any other Asian Americans. They actually interact with, it looks like, handlers, and it's very strange and very odd. And I reached out to them several times. They never talk with me, but they also don't talk with other Asian Americans or Korean Americans. It's very weird. Have you also maybe ever been contacted or thought about contacting Jordan Harbinger? Because he's around a lot of, he has an interview with Yeonmi Park, and he also has some stuff with have you ever heard of a guy called Chris An?
Chris An, I'm not familiar with him.
Okay, it's a very interesting story. So the thing is that Chris An is a guy who is Korean American, and apparently on his vacation time, he likes to go to Spain, and he breaks into the North Korean embassy to try to get some people out to come to the United States. I think they were high-level officials or diplomats or something. really sounds like he's CIA. And when you look at actually the website's been erased now, right? There's still a link, like a link where you can click all this stuff. But the original site I still have documented on my channel, where you can see the people who's shouting out are Sumi Terry, right, a known CIA person, and her husband Max Boot. Actually, they have separate organizations to try to inflate the amount of support that it looked like Chris An got. So look, Chris An I still consider a Korean American brother, but I don't want anybody to really be deported and killed. But the thing is that there's very strange things going on, and Harbinger also interviewed them as well as Youngmi Park. And it seems like, regular Korean American like myself can't get access, even though I'm in the Republican Party and Youngmi's doing all this stuff with Blexit. I have connections in Blexit and things like that. But I can't actually. When I tried to talk to her in New York, I was the only Korean American when she went to speak at in a New York event. Actually, the handlers really try to get in the way, and I actually have this all documented. So it seems like so many Korean Americans, especially from North Korea, who wanted to, they're not allowed to talk to Korean Americans. Very strange. Yeah. Okay, thanks for. So, have you ever talked with Jordan Harbinger? Because he seems to do quite a bit about North Korea. Talk about it.
I can't say I've ever even heard of him. Jordan Harbinger, yeah.
Okay, that's all right. I'll send you some information later if you ever want to take a look. Have you heard of someone named Caleb Maupin?
Caleb Maupin?
Yeah.
And what about him?
Okay, so he's actually someone who's really kind of like, he has like an organization called CPI, who was actually found to be sexually abusing his own members. And the thing is that he actually took an interest in Korea, and he tried to actually, because, he tries to go this communist route, right? And then what happened was, I think a lot of people use that term for their own benefit. We'll talk about that in a moment. But now, actually, recently, there's actually, you ever heard of something called the Moons? I'm sure you heard of the Moon family, right?
The Moon family.
Yeah, the ones that have the mass weddings and stuff.
Yeah, the Moonies, yeah.
Because Noto Tool actually rejected him, thank God, okay, because of his abuse, other things that he did. Actually, he linked up with the mother, and the son had a split. I'm doing a little bit more with the son nowadays, but he actually did some event in New Jersey with a guy named Garland Nixon, or he's actually, you ever heard of Garland Nixon?
I've heard the name. I'm not familiar with who
he's the Jimmy Dore clique. He's actually also Scott Ritter and Judge Napolitano and these other kind of like people around. So they have a little clique, and I've been trying to expose them for a long time, because the anti-war movement is controlled by Jeff Epstein-like forces that are actually sexually abusing people and actually stealing a lot of the money. And we're going to get to that in a moment. So just thank you for clearing this up. I'm just going to try to get all this information as much as possible. Another thing that I feel very curious about, right? I know that you have sympathies for socialism and stuff like that, and I'm actually more of a mixed martial arts philosophy, right? I think it's more about the implementation than the ideology. But the thing is, it's weird to me that like Asians are supposed to have more of a collective culture, and Westerns are supposed to be more individualistic. So why is it that we all study communism from a Western perspective? Aren't there maybe like Asian philosophies that have more of a collectivist mentality? Why are we all basing our stuff off of social communism which developed in the West? It seems weird to me. Do you know of any philosophies or political ideologies from the East that are maybe analogous to communism and socialism?
Well, that's an interesting question. I don't know why, but I do know that in communism is, I think, most successful or most prevalent in Asia. And my understanding of China, and I'm not a China expert, is that China has, although it's led by the Communist Party, it is a socialist country with Chinese characteristics. So I think they incorporate, from my understanding of that, is they incorporate their old Chinese traditions of governance into whatever they feel socialism is.
Okay, just interesting. Yeah. Okay, thanks for clearing that up. Also, have you heard of a guy named Chuck Park?
Chuck Park, no.
Okay, Chuck Park is actually the first, as well as someone named Julie Won, they're the first Korean Americans to run for Congress in U.S. Congress in New York State. Interestingly enough, even though you have a history of war, right? The thing is that, and also he was running Grace Meng, just so you know, gets over 400,000. She's the top-ranking Asian American in New York State, and she gets over. I looked at Ted Luke to see if he was analogous, but he's not, because even though he's a strong supporter of Israel, because Grace Meng gets over $400,000 per year from from IPAC, and the thing is that that's more than the next 40 contributors combined. She has no outstanding money from any Asian American groups. So Chuck Park ran against her, and I've been actually supporting every candidate that ever ran against Grace Meng, because she actually bullies all the down ballot Asian American electeds to serve Israel instead of Asian American interests. She's manipulated the AAPI curriculum, which I mentioned at the end of. I actually had an interview on K Council. So thank you so much for having me on. I'm blackballed by so many other groups, including the guy from the rapper from Taiwan, right? Yeah, because of my exposure of the theft and sex abuse that's going on in the anti-war movement by executives. But so the thing is that even though he was running against Grace Meng, one of the top persons to really, she really introduced the bills to make Israel the largest recipient of U.S. aid money in history. They really use other faces to really try to get their dirty work done, and Grace Meng is a prime mover for that. He did not, even though he got 95% of the vote by Working Families Party to endorse him, the New York State Working Family Party refused to endorse him. So he's really treated quite unfairly, even though he, as a war victims and as people on the same timeline as Israel, Palestine, Korea has the same timeline of manipulation. It seems like for some reason we're not really given a voice in this particular movement when we have so many relevant things to say. So what's your perspective as in terms of Korean voices, as in terms of being able to speak on the Israel-Palestine issue?
My perspective on Korean voices on the Israel-Palestine issue?
I think that we should be more centered. I think that we should, there's a lot of relevance as in terms of what's going on there, but you could see on the East Coast, right, we're treated as disposable, we're treated as irrelevant. And even though you see that, I don't know if you know, the two PSA candidates that won, like Arlene Chevalier, and also her name is Claire Dalvez, who won the primaries, their opponents were progressives, like Antonio Reynoso, he's a progressive. Or if you take a look at the other one, Espaillat, he's not progressive, he's actually corrupt. But he actually endorsed Mamdani, whereas Grace Meng never did. Grace Meng is completely under the control of Israel. So, Chuck Park's race was much more relevant to actually unseating IPAC, but they don't want to talk about that. Oh, just so you know, I also have something called Uniform by Platform USA, where I contact candidates all over the nation. I've asked every single one of them what they're going to do to stop foreign interference in our elections, but none of the political programs can mention any of this work. Because, and actually your program is actually groundbreaking, Radio Korea, but where's the political commentators like Kim Iverson, Meador? How come none of them have anything to say about your program? I'm pretty pissed off about that. Anyways, so just to get back to the question, do you see any, on the West Coast, I know the Asian Americans are a little bit powerful. Are you having any more successes in terms of muscling your way into the Israel-Palestine issue and saying, you know what, look, we're on the same timeline of interference. Can we kind of help you to understand manipulations of the media and stuff like that, as in terms of understanding how to develop a solution?
Wow, okay. That was a lot to take in, but on the West Coast with Israel, Palestine, and Asians, oh boy, I don't know. From what it seems, the Korean American community here, at least the loudest ones, seem to be Christian and seem to be largely in support of Israel, and more of the perhaps second generation progressives, maybe they are more pro-Palestine, but I don't really see them doing anything except maybe make some, I don't know if they're even really making social media videos. I'm not sure what they're doing.
Even with the troubled history of the South Korean, almost I think all the presidents went to jail. You put the people who were running the Koreans for the Japanese, right? They put them in charge. Aren't the older Koreans at least? I think they're skeptical. They probably are skeptical at least, or they're just all gung ho for it.
I think
skeptical from their own experiences.
I mean, from what I heard from some Christians, their belief is that, I don't know, they believe the Bible tells them that they must bless Israel, and Israel is a Jewish state, and I think they feel like they have to support it. And
Yikes.
That's what I've heard. That's all I've heard from that side. I haven't really heard anything.
Look, I don't think it's as simple as one side good, one side bad, but there's got to be thanks for letting me know about that. If we take that community, they rejected Jesus. So if you're a Christian, right, like it's really strange for you to embrace the people that reject Jesus. So I'm really puzzled about the just because they're paying off some pastors and stuff. That's what I feel like it is, right? That's just me. So I'm quite skeptical about Israel, just so you know. So that's just my position. All right. So have you heard about the recent thing with Nick Shirley actually exposing Korean stuff here in New York City?
Surely someone exposing Korean stuff in New York City. I don't know about
Shirley's
that.
actually this person who actually exposed the stuff going on in Minnesota with the Somali daycares, and that recently he came to New York City.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So, do you have any feelings about that, or do you think actually we can see that that was kind of like a prequel to some kind of like other stuff going on to Somalis, right? Like federal investigation stuff like that. I think something's going to happen to Koreans now. I think that Nick Shirley is actually there's different producers, right? One, I think he's really the national. You have the local teams, the grassroots teams, and right, and just local. And you also have the national team. There's certain things they want to get done. Do you think anything that Nick Shirley's trying to like line up Koreans in some way? I do. I'm very concerned about it.
I don't know if there's any specific agenda to target Koreans. I mean, I think he exposed what, like you said, the Somalis first, and then he also found Koreans doing something. And as a Korean, that's kind of like, yeah, makes the rest of us look bad. I just leave it at that.
Another question that I have is, look, being Korean American, I find it very tragic. The split of the countries, but Kim Jong Un recently said that he's not down for reunification anymore. Do you think reunification is still possible, or what? It's very tragic, right? There's a group out here from the Palestinians called Within Our Lifetime. It's there's still people that are alive who were there before the split. You think they could get it back together? Seems like it's drifting further and further apart.
I think as long as the United States remains the number one military superpower and wants to hold on to that position, it's going to be impossible. So once, I believe logically what will happen is eventually, as all empires do fall, as the US empire begins to fall, some people say it already has, with Iran and everything, but eventually it'll be weakened to a point where perhaps, reunification, or at least not reunification, but bringing an end to the Korean War and having a peace treaty signed that can be on the table again, because this is now what, a 76-year war, and I can't imagine it's going to go to the year 2050. I don't think it'll last 100 years, but I could be wrong. But
I remember that Doug had actually, I was actually on the same page as him. Doug, if you watch this, I hope you do, right? Yeah, I'm not your enemy. Talk to me. Anyways, but he said that, I like Trump, and he liked Trump because he actually went to North Korea to talk to Kim Jong-un, who was the first president in history. But I don't know if you know about it, but a New York Times article actually busted because while they were having those talks, actually Trump sneaked in some covert operation to try to plant bugs inside of the North Korean telecommunication stuff. Did you hear about that?
I did not.
Okay, you could look it up. And this person who actually made that, who released that story, very recently, I think within the last week or two, got put on additional charges or something, like he got arrested. So I do feel like these signs point to something going on with them trying to line up Korea for something. You know that when Trump, went after Maduro, he wants to have a win. Right? He actually went after Iran, using up all the U.S. military. If that's true, that they don't have other stockpiles, but he used up a lot of arsenal to fight a war on behalf. Now he needs a win, and he might try to eat that out through Taiwan or Korea. So I hope that he doesn't start, with us, because we're very hardcore after surviving the war, and then famine, and then carpet bombing, right? Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, I hope that we could get together. I'm just another thing is I know you talked with Dermot Hudson before. I've talked with Dermot Hudson while I had him on my channel, and I'd like Dermot actually. He's not blackballing. We appreciate, right? Versus a lot of the Korean Americans who are. Please take an example from Dermot, but his whole organization, KFA, Korean Friendship Association, does not have any diasporic Korean Americans. So I actually wrote him recently. I said, you know what? I want to open the KFA branch in New York, right? Like I'm in the United States because I want there to be peace. I want us to have a friendly association with them. And I'm a diasporic Korean. You really kind of need that. So I think that I know I'm a Republican. I know they don't really like that, but labels, whatever, man. If you get a chance to talk to him, maybe you could float that idea by him. I want there to be, because the U.S. branch, I think a lot of CIA is getting involved in. I'm not even sure about that. Dermot Hudson himself is not. I don't trust anybody, and I was raised like that because my mom is a survivor of the Korean War. Child when she grew up, and there was so much raping and killing and stuff. It's just all my uncles are dead except for one. There's 3 other uncles that. It's really a tragic story. People have no conception. They think Asians and Korean Americans never suffer. They're dreaming. They're dreaming. No idea. Okay. By the way, do you also have, we talked about Kangman Lee one time. I was in the chat right there. I think that he's unfortunately thrifty, but I agree with your summarization, but he's one of the few on the right. But do you have any Korean American political commentators that you enjoy or that you would recommend?
I can't say I'm aware of many in the first place.
K-Town Social, my boy, that's the best.
Yeah, so we had Doug and Ed, and Doug is. I tend to agree with Doug on a lot of the stuff about North Korea and whatnot. Ed, he's like progressive liberal guy, which I don't think it whatever. And then there's Young, who's like MAGA communist guy, or Young is just a MAGA guy.
Yeah, he's not MAGA communist.
Yeah, the only political commentators I was really familiar with were the ones that were
like
on the
Doug,
show.
Because he also talks about the Asian woman, the East Asian woman, the South Asian man. This is definitely true in my experience as well out here. But the thing is that his love for Jackson Hinkle's career was always the New York head of something called the People's Party. And Jackson Hinkle was made for, I have all the documentation, I have the video footage of when he actually ran cover for Nick Brana for his sexual abuse and theft from the People's Party. Because Jackson Hinkle ran cover for him. Jimmy Dore promoted him many times. And there's actually a whole host of other people that are engaged in theft and sexual abuse. They put Scott Ritter into the anti-war movement. You know who Scott Ritter is?
Yeah, I've heard him on. I'm familiar with him. Yeah.
Okay. The thing is that he's a 2-time convicted pedophile, whereas Jeff Epstein was only convicted once. And I do understand the criticism where people say, you know what, he identified weapons of mass destruction and called that as to be a farce. And I do understand when people say he might be targeted. But the thing is that remember that they could have on a war victim like myself. They could have a spokesperson like Doug or yourself, right? And to bring up in the anti-war movement. No. Because the elites in the anti-war movement, right, such as Nick Brana from the People's Party, are engaged in theft and sexual abuse to cover, and Caleb Maupin, in order to cover up for these higher ups who are connected to each other, including Brian Becker. I know David has a lot of love for PSL. I know they helped him promote his movie. I'm not saying they're all bad. I'm just saying hold the leaders accountable. A lot of money missing. A lot of celebrity culture, and Jackson Hinkle's career was made specifically for enabling the victimization of them. That's who rises up in this game. So, Doug, I want to talk to you. I admire a lot of things you say. Well, why are you canceling, bro? I'm a Korean American brother, man. Are you going to follow Jackson Hinkle into an American brother myself? Thanks for letting me get that off my chest, yeah? There's also just, there's some black lady who actually was part of the Kim Jong-il family. You know who I'm talking about? She lives in England now.
Not familiar.
It was actually the daughter of a dictator, Idi Amin or something like that. So she actually, when her father was killed, she actually went to go live with the Kim Jong Un's family.
Oh, I see. I remember hearing about her. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she would be very interesting to have on your program. So I would see.
She lives in London now, right?
Yeah, I talked to Dermot about her, but so you should have her on. I do remember there's one other thing that I want to ask you about. Have you ever studied the Black Panthers? You know a guy named Eldridge Cleaver?
What about the Black Panthers?
Have you ever heard of a guy named Eldridge Cleaver?
Yeah, he went to North Korea, I think.
Absolutely. So the thing is that I also have appearances with a named Maud Marin, who's literally Kathleen Cleaver's assistant. And I also have, I don't know if you know the name Bobby Seale, one of the founders of the Black Panthers. Actually, I brought him to my school to speak when I was vice president at the University of Buffalo. And here in New York City, there's a couple of Black Panthers around, like a guy named Panther Shepkat, and also some of my people are also connected to Fred Hampton Jr., right? But the thing is that despite reaching out many times to have a discussion about the Panthers in Korea, they never get back to me. I actually went Republican myself because of the abuses that are happening in the progressive movement that are not really being addressed. But I say the wolves in sheep's clothing are more spilling more blood. But have you had any opportunity to really follow up with this at all about their relationship with Korea?
I just know that a few of their members went to North Korea in the past, and they had I think some of the leaders had their child born in North Korea, and
Jojo Cleaver, I'll send her emails. She doesn't respond to me, but she might respond to you.
that's pretty much all. And I think they used to in their magazine or pamphlet, I know they mentioned Kim Il Sung in North Korea. That's all I really know about that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, even though I am actually MAGA, I also support. I work with the Long Swamp for Cosmic State History. I have New York City's only third-party independent candidate debates. I work with the homeless. I work with public housing. So I'm not your typical, right? But I was really forced into that space because people like Doug and Ed don't want to talk to me. So otherwise I have to survive by my own. So poor people don't get pure food. You got to take what I know. You want to be purists out there, but rich people can turn their noses up at stuff. But we got to eat the garbage that everybody leaves over. So, when I went to Kalma Harris' office with the longest long advertisement in New York City history, none of the socialist economists came with us. But K-pop, by the way, do you think that's a CIA plan or do you think that's real? It's real.
I think there's definitely a lot of potential to. I think there could be some invisible hands in the background to promote it.
Yeah, but shout out to BTS and screw the Grammys. You write about that.